happy Friday to you all and happy Pajama Rama Day. As you can see, I am in my Star Wars pyjamas because those of you that know me know how much I love Star Wars. And I've also got my teddy with me. This is Ewok, who is an Ewok, which is from one of the Star Wars movies. So he's here to help me read our book today. So I'm going to continue reading The Kid Who Came from Space. And we're going to read the next couple of chapters. So we've started to get to find out a bit more yesterday about Hellianne, who is the alien. Okay, so we're on chapter 17. Chapter 17. I ached everywhere. I had been well strapped in, but the first impact with the lake service had jolted my neck hard. A water landing had not been the original plan. In fact, very little of what had happened had been the original plan. In the original plan, for example, I should have had a human girl, Tami, next to me in the craft. I looked across at the empty space where she should have been and winced at the pain in my neck. Still, I was alive. The craft had stopped and was floating, which I was relieved about. I know it was designed to float, but as I had discovered, things can go wrong. And I did not like the idea of suffocating to death in the craft on the bottom of this lake. So not only was I alive, but the craft was floating, and I was sitting upright, breathing hard. So it was not all bad. Loosening the buckles around my legs and chest, I took a few moments to assess the damage. I started with my feet, wiggling all 12 toes in turn. Then my ankles, knees, and so on, up to my neck and down my arms and tail. Nothing broken, but everything sore. Next, I scanned the cabin interior. The large panel windows were whited out. I could not see out of them. There was a small instrument panel on my left, which appeared to have been knocked out by the impact. But I was not very certain what most of things meant anyway. Perhaps my co-pilot could help. Philip, I said. Philip did not respond, and I felt a surge of anxiety. Philip, I asked again, and I hit some of the light panels more or less randomly and completely ineffectively. Still, the instrument panel flickered to life somewhat reluctantly. Central power 0.5%. It did not actually say 0.5%. This is what you might call Earth maths, and we do not use percentages even though they are fine for your purposes. But 0.5% was not good. VI operative. That was better news. The visual inhibitor was working, which meant the craft could not be seen from the outside. Assuming Earth eyes operate more or less like ours, and we think they do, apart from this thing you have called colour. Philip, clear the front screen. The front screen remained whited out. Internal repair underway, please wait. There was a pause and a bleep, and then unexpected item in the bagging area. What? Philip? I was both pleased and relieved to hear Philip speaking to me, but there was clearly an error somewhere in his voice system. I looked around the craft. Where was the bagging area? Internal repair underway. Please extinguish all cigarettes and thank you for shopping at Walmart. Above me, a light blinked. I reached up and pressed the button next to it. The whited out windows cleared in a second, and I peered out. As my eyes adjusted, I saw a sky of mid-darkness and across the water in the distance a half-illuminated shoreline, which was my first experience of moonlight. Apart from the moonlight, though, it did not look so very different from Anthala, dark and featureless. My head was beginning to clear from the impact. Why the water landing, Philip? I had not practised this. Come to think of it, I had not really practised any of it. Lighting conditions, Hellianne. It's not fully dark for a further hour. We left in a hurry after all. I think there may have been an error in the data input, leading to an earlier arrival than initially planned. And vertical landings are not recommended in daytime? Exactly. They take much longer and consequently carry a much greater risk of detection. I may have sustained some minor damage. Me too, I thought. But there was no time for further assessment. My adventure on Earth was about to begin. Chapter 18. I was on Earth now, and I couldn't go home. The sensible, rational thing to do would be find somewhere to hide the craft and figure out some kind of plan. For that to work, however, I needed Philip to be functioning properly. I tried again. Philip, how long until you're finished? Internal repair underway. Duration of repair uncertain. At the roundabout, take the third exit on the A404. I sighed, and then was startled by a bang. Seemingly on the side of the craft, craning around to look out of the window just behind me, I gasped when I saw two Earth people in a tiny, unstable boat, about 3 meters away. There was something else moving in the boat as well, which looked like a bird, although it probably was not. It seemed as though their boat had hit my craft. Could they see me? Perhaps the VI was not working after all. I could not hear them. Philip, I said, external audio. Internal repair underway. Please hold the line. Your call is important to us. Oh, be quiet. Philip's nonsense was unnerving me. Please hold the line. The person you are calling knows you are waiting. One of the people outside began throwing things, small stones it seemed, at the craft. I tried to turn the vehicle the old way by expelling some compressed gas from a vent in the rear, and it worked. Slowly my craft rotated, and I was facing the two humans. They looked straight at me, but it seemed as though they could not see me. They were the first Earth people I had ever seen, other than exhibits at the Earth Zone. They were smaller than I expected, juveniles. Both had pale skin and hair of different shades, and those strange, tiny noses. How can they smell anything with those? They had clothes on. I know about clothes. Human beings wear them nearly all the time. The thought of it is enough to make me itch. I advanced the craft towards a tiny bit to look closer, but I think I alarmed them. One of them took out something which glinted in the moonlight, and I was momentarily fearful. Was it a gun? I knew about these as well, little handheld devices used to kill other humans. Anyhow, it was not a gun, but something that he used to create a beam of light, which he shone towards the craft, angling it differently, and I thought I knew what he was doing. If this was a sort of low diffraction, amplified light source that you call laser, then he would be getting an idea of the invisible shape in front of him. If I'm honest, I was quite impressed. This was some way beyond the level of intelligence that we have come to expect from human beings. Then something went wrong. Something frightened them. Maybe it was the movement of my craft, but one of them stood up. The other wobbled in the boat, and suddenly they were both tipped into the water and were swimming hard to get back to the shore, one of them holding something. I saw them scramble out onto the wooden deck that juts out above the water. One of them appeared to be hurt. "Philip, can we move yet?" "Limited propulsion is now possible, Hellianne. Thank you for your patience." "You're back," I said, relieved. "System damage is significant. Internal repairs are underway." I risked a further tiny amount of power to follow the boys, but I could not land on the beach. It was too narrow. I stopped alongside the wooden platform. I was quite close to them now, and I could see that, 1, it was definitely a bird accompanying them. It was wet, which may be why it did not fly away. 2, there was something familiar about one of them, which I felt odd about, for how could that be? There was just something about this one that made me curious. He was hopping about next to the other one, who was lying on the wooden deck, crying in pain and bleeding quite heavily. I could not bear to see him in such distress and not help. I made a fast decision. I would, 1, exit my craft. 2, heal the injured one with my stick, because I did not like him suffering, then memory wipe them both, assuming it worked the way it should. 3, return to the craft and decide on a course of action. It would all be over quickly. The uninjured one started shouting, "Help!" I did not know who was around to help him, but this was not good. If someone came, my task would be much harder. I had to act quickly. "Philip, I'm going to exit." "Are you quite sure that's wise, Hellianne? You will exit an invisible craft and thus simply appear as if from nowhere. This will startle the Earth people." This turned out to be an understatement. I think they were definitely startled. Nonetheless, I healed the injured one. That worked at least. But it was the other one that I kept looking at. It was his freckles and his big dark eyes that were familiar. They were just like Tammy's. And then I learned his name. "Ethan," he said. Was he? Could he be? Her brother? Perhaps even her twin brother? Grown in the same womb at the same time, and with a tendency to look alike. That never happens at home, but then we do not reproduce quite like you. An idea began to form in my mind. Perhaps my situation was improving after all. Humans were better liars. Perhaps this was what humans, in their irrational way, called luck or fate. That I should take Ethan back home with me to save his sister. That was how the whole adventure began. That was how I met Ethan and Iggy and his chicken. When I said that thing about, "or you will never see your sister again," I was guessing, but I knew he was her brother when Ethan gave a little gasp and his eyes widened. But to explain why I was there in the first place, I will have to go back to when I first saw a human being. I'm going to stop there for today. I hope you enjoyed the next part of our book. I hope you all have a lovely weekend and enjoy the rest of your Pyjama Rama day. And I will carry on reading on Monday. Bye!